morning, everybody. Tremendous turnout for a Sunday morning. The best turnout for this conference I think I've seen in quite a few years. So we're very, very excited to see that. And I think Lobo just did a very, very good job of outlining how you can make some money in our sector in the next little while. I think he made the point that uranium 2023 been very good. We've seen uranium prices go from $15 to $80 a pound. We've seen gold go to all-time highs over the past couple of years as well. I think the place that most money's going to be made in the next couple of years, probably out of silver and copper. And so I just want to talk a bit about copper. I'm a copper tragic. I see a few familiar faces out there that know and love the copper business as much as I do. The copper price, of course, one of the things we're seeing at the moment, and this is probably a little bit out of date, this slide, but you see Hercules Silver made a significant copper discovery down in Idaho last year, and their share price performed very well. Here in the last couple of days, we've seen a couple of companies in British Columbia like AMARC put out some great results and double in share price. So that's the first time I've seen that in probably 5 or 6 years where you start to see good drill holes actually starting to translate to higher share prices very quickly. So the market's finally responding the way it should, and we're seeing prices shoot up when you drill good results. Now, that's okay. So that's, it's always important to have good exposure to discovery and potential discoveries and to benefit from companies that are doing good exploration work. That's one of the things we're doing here at VRIC Copper. But just generally, copper markets over the past 20 years have delivered some of the most extraordinary returns to investors in our space. We've got a couple of companies up there that we all know and love. Probably the favourite and one that I was involved in back in Australia was Oxiana. So Oxiana, 1996 to 2000, had a market capitalisation of about $6 million through good exploration and development work, primarily their Sepon copper project in Laos. Their share price, or the market cap, I should say, went to $12 billion. So you can see extraordinary returns from the copper sector. And that's what we think is going to happen. Now, I wouldn't be surprised, of course, if we see $20 or $30 a pound copper in the not too distant future, certainly in the next 5 to 10 years. The reason I say that, when I joined Rio Tinto in 1999, Rio insisted we put in our copper project models 70-cent copper price diminishing at a cent a year to infinity. We missed the boat to some extent on copper and copper investment at Rio Tinto because of that attitude. Now, of course, what happened over the next 6 or 7 years is the copper price went from 70 cents all the way up to $4.60. So we know that metal prices, this big, deep market that is the copper market, the biggest market in our space, can deliver extraordinary metal price returns. So that metal price was up 6 times over those 6 years. This time round, we're starting at a base around $4 today. I see CIBC put out some numbers recently saying that their long-term forecast is $4.50. So I think people are already factoring this in. But given what we see on the supply side, don't be surprised if you see $20 per pound copper by the back end of this decade. Simply no way that we can provide for the demand that's growing at the moment. So we think you want to be in copper. We've got one option. You can build a basket of copper stocks and a portfolio of copper stocks. But we think, key things you need to have. Good jurisdiction. You don't want to be building a project in a place where they're going to take it off you. Certain places, very hard to raise finance for. Canada is still a great, stable jurisdiction, despite our wonderful leader who's now stepping aside. And timing is great. We've got, the junior market. You've seen some of the other things I've been involved in recently are quite telling. Skeena Resources, I've been the chairman of Skeena for the past 7 years. Vizsla Silver, I was a co-founder with my partner Mike Connett. both of those companies have tripled or quadrupled in share price over the past 12 months. Fundamentally outstanding projects and development-ready projects, and that, you know, you've seen those quality projects advance. The junior space, however, we're still really in the doldrums. It's like nothing I've ever seen. Metal prices very high. The copper price, of course, March last year was at an all-time high, and you saw a little bit of interest return to the sector, but not enough. I think that changes this year. As people pull money off the table, you've seen the M&A cycle kick off. People are selling into that M&A cycle. There's a lot more money coming back into our sector, and I think at this point, this year will be when it starts to flow down into the junior space. So timing, a fantastic time to get set. You know, my average investment, my ACB on Vizsla Copper, this copper business, is probably about 30 cents, so, you know, 5 times where the current share price is. I've been in the market buying it in recent weeks. I bought 1 million shares this past week just because things are, we are in deep value territory, and it's an extraordinary opportunity, and I think, you know, now is the time to get set in copper stories. A little bit about, we'll do a dive now. You know, I've talked about the copper space. I think, you know, I can talk ad nauseum about the supply side challenges that we have, but we'll just dig into the company here. So Vizsla Copper, it's a spin out of Vizsla Silver. Of course, some of you will be invested almost certainly in Vizsla Silver. My partners there, Mike Connett, Simon Smirlek, Steve Blower, who's up the back, lead the company. Our projects, we've focused on British Columbia. We've got you know, we've taken a view that there's some very, just up the road here, some very large porphyry copper deposits that will become mines in the not too distant future, and you can buy them very, very cheaply. For the projects that you see there on the screen, we paid a sum total of $14 million. Our market capitalisation today is only $13 million. Well, what do you get for that? We've got 4 billion pounds of copper in the ground, nearly 2 million ounces, quite a bit of molybdenum, and a huge amount of exploration upside. And if you've been following this story, you know that our approach here is that the fundamental base value of the company is supported by that very large resource base that we have at both the Woodjam and Poplar projects. But what we're doing this year is a little bit different. We've been really drilling out resources and trying to prove up a much higher grade resource base. This year we're taking a different approach. We've now been on the ground at the Woodjam property in central BC for about 2 years. The team's built up a very detailed understanding of the metallurgy and the geology of that area, and we've come up with a huge number of outstanding exploration targets. You can see there some of our results from the past year, 1.1% copper over 95 metres, all very close to surface. So we know there's some high-grade areas and zones to these deposits. But the exciting thing for me is some of the exploration potential. It went largely unnoticed last year, but we announced the discovery of the megaton zone. It went largely unnoticed because some of the intercepts in there, 24 metres at 0.2% copper, nothing to write home about. But what we realise now is that we're on the edge of a porphyry system. So we've got to follow that up. That's one of the best porphyry copper targets that I've seen in British Columbia in recent times. So we'll be drilling that this year. Our Three Furs zone, another exciting discovery. We found brecciated porphyry clasts at the bottom of this drill hole. We think that suggests that there's a monster, higher grade, highly altered porphyry system sitting there somewhere to be found. So that's another fantastic target. And then just quickly on the Poplar project, we paid $11 million for this back in March this year. Sorry, $3 million. For that we got 2 billion pounds of copper, significant 750,000 ounces of gold, all at good grade, 0.4% copper. That'll be very much economic when copper price gets to $20 or $30 a pound. But even at $5 a pound, that's a great project. But Steve's our VP Explorations down the back there. He and I were on the ground here in May this year. What we saw was quite astonishing. It's probably the best. I've been doing porphyry exploration for 25 years now, including a couple of years in Chile when I was with Rio Tinto. And this is the best porphyry target that I've ever seen in 25 years of doing this. It's a large mag high, with a mag low at the centre of that target. We walked the ground, we found porphyritic rocks, altered rocks on the ground. We then completed a number of IP lines across the property and completed geochemical chemistry over the property. Big high-grade copper anomaly at the centre of that target. So what I want you to take away from this is that this coming year, we're going to turn our attention to all of these drill targets we've got. We've got 4 open shots on goal. I think we'll be drilling those come summer, come May, and I think we're an extraordinary chance of finding another major porphyry system from the work we do this year. So things to take away from this: we're very, very cheap. We're not going to get cheaper. I'm buying stock at the moment. We have a large resource base, 4 billion pounds of copper, 2 million ounces of gold. You're only paying $13 million for that exposure. And we have a tremendous amount of exploration upside and a brilliant team to do the work. So thank you very much.